Hey, it's Alex, and this is my final music project. And for my final music project, I decided to interview three people, including myself. One was a classically trained musician named Alfred. The other was a not self-identified non-musician who is my girlfriend Christina. And then the third is a self-taught person who identifies as a musician, which would be me. And through these interviews, I found differing meaning and attachment to certain aspects of music. So, starting off is Alfred, who is the classically trained Eastman musician. And so, starting off with his classical training, that wasn't so much of a personal choice, that one that he was more born into. He's from Taiwan, and there, everyone will learn to play an instrument in school the same way that everyone learns to read and write. So at the age of 4, he was introduced to the violin by his parents, which is an instrument his father also plays. And his father is someone who strictly only listens to classical music. Alfred only knows how to play classical music. And growing up, his father would consider non classical music not really to be music. This is how he found his own personal community in Taiwan. And Alfred also finds community through playing classical music. It helps like define him. But weirdly enough, his favorite genre is a subgenre of metal called black metal, which is sort of an extreme variant of it. And weirdly enough, I thought it was odd too that being from Taiwan, Western classical music was their biggest thing. It reminds me of Cook's theory on how Western culture and music influences others, because they listen to Western classical music more than Taiwanese traditional folk music, even. And again, that can go into like forms of enculturation. Like even though he's from Taiwan, his dad only played this, so he's used to it. And as for black metal goes, he found it online, and he found that the complex guitar parts reminded him a lot of violin music, and it brings joy in him, the same way listening to classical music does. So he has like the same somatic response to both genres in the form of shivers, whether it's like a musical, like a very pretty classical piece, or like a really intense black metal thing of someone, screaming over over blast beats or something. And he says that both of them feel like a journey and make him happy. And I thought that this fell in line with Langer's theory on emotion and music being a deeply personal one, because he feels happy listening to black metal, which is not a happy genre. It's it is a subgenre of it called DSBM, which stands for depressive suicidal black metal. And black metal is all about being sad and like wanting to kill yourself and hating yourself, but it makes him happy. So, it shows that music has a very personal meaning to people in different ways. The second person I interviewed is my girlfriend Christina, and she has some music training in the form of playing the clarinet in orchestra in middle and high school, but doesn't consider herself a musician. Growing up, her parents were fans of 80s pop rock, but she does not enjoy that type of music. She also doesn't listen to the classical or jazz she played in orchestra anymore. She primarily listens to pop music, but enjoys going to local music shows. And on the other hand, she enjoys going to these music shows, but she doesn't like the music. It's more for getting to feel like part of a group. And for that, I have a quote from This Is Your Brain on Music, and it says, "Our group listens to this kind of music, those people listen to that kind of music." This ties into the evolutionary idea of music as a vehicle for social bonding and societal cohesion. Music and musical preferences become a mark of personal and group identity and of distinction. And so this is where she goes, this is where she meets her friends. But her favorite music is Taylor Swift, and that's been something she was a fan of since she was young. There's a warm familiarity that's like built an emotional connection within her explicit memory. It's like predictable and safe. And then, as for me, I started becoming interested in music as a child, but my parents have almost no knowledge of music, so I had to really experience it myself, which, according to the structure of music preferences, I guess what I'm interested in falls into the fringe category, and it also plays into the Berlin's inverted U model, because I love top 40 pop music. I think it's really good, but it's ear candy. I can only really listen to it so many times because it's so predictable generally. But I generally like ambient or drone noise, just experimental music, because it's not as predictable and it's all over the place with emotion. And I find more value in listening to that repeatedly than a top 40 song, which I still love top 40 music, though. It's great. Um, and the last thing I wanted to say was that I found it interesting the way our performance differs. The classical student says, this is a quote, especially during the first 5 to 10 minutes, my hands start to shake and I lose a lot of control. So a lot of the time when I'm performing, I don't feel comfortable because everything seems out of control. I try to control it, but it makes everything worse because I should be more relaxed to get rid of the nervousness. And Christina said that I always feel like super capable and respected for being able to do something. I did solo festivals and auditions, and my mom would always bring me flowers. And for me, it really varies based on the audience's response. So I find that very different between those three forms of music. Thank you.